I've mentioned in a few videos that my husband is also my editor. Now, this was not always the case. In fact, if you look on the listing for my very first novel, Blood Herring, you will see Tim Marquitz is listed as an editor. Yes, the Tim Marquitz who wrote so many other amazing urban fantasy books. And he did a fantastic job. My husband's just simply more readily available and, frankly, a little bit more budget friendly. But I know not everyone's in a position where they're lucky enough to be able to turn to their spouse or a family member and ask for something like that. And I remember making a lot of assumptions about an editor before I hired him. So I wanted to get the scoop on what writers can expect going into an editor and what are some of the common mistakes or common misconceptions they have. To that end, today I am interviewing the nonsense-free editor herself, Kristen McTiernan. Most of my interviews are a 3-video structure, but yours, I just kind of want to know what you think writers can not be dumbasses about, which you seem to be really good about speaking to.
Yeah, I can usually speak off the cuff. Just fire away.
Well, I mean, the big thing, my husband's my editor. Now, that hasn't always been the case. My very first book, I did hire a professional, and they were kind enough to tell me that I overpaid because I did a lot of self-editing. But my husband's also my best critique. He's the one that can tell me when I'm screwing shit up. Not everyone has that advantage, so I definitely want my listeners to have the advantage of knowing what can they do better when they're approaching an editor. And I know you've got a whole YouTube video comprised of telling people not to be dumbasses, but
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who hasn't stumbled across that just yet?
Don't get hung up on stupid shit, because a lot of times, like, people will take something really to heart. So
Mhm.
I'll say, okay, if you're talking to an editor, find one who's well versed in your genre. And then I'll have somebody who will come to me and say, okay, well, I need to know, are you an expert in hard sci-fi that deals specifically with insect-based life forms? And it's like, or that's obviously not a female
Okay,
genre.
that's niche as hell, but okay.
Yeah, it's like, no, and no one is an expert on that. So what you wanna know is the genre, not the particular subject matter. So it's like, are you well-versed in historical fiction? Yes, the fact that I am not well-versed on the Ming Dynasty of China
Mhm.
is irrelevant to this conversation. You want to find someone who can help you with your story structure, with your characters, and what the audience expects from this genre. You're not hiring a matter expert. So if you need to hire someone with niche expertise on the time period or on the science, that's a whole other purchase. That's not what your editor does. They're there to do the story, they're there to do the characters, they're there to tell you if your reader is going to like it and be happy they spent the $2.99 to $5.99 on the ebook. That's what your editor does, and to fix it and be able to verbalize how you can fix it if something is wrong. That's what you're looking for, not niche subject matter expertise.
Right. I feel like if you're trying to get someone who's an expert on, say, like you said, the Ming Dynasty, I feel like at that point, that's where you're doing the research side. So you should be interviewing maybe a college professor or
Yes,
someone like that, or maybe going to your local history museum and seeing if they have a resource for you. Um,
exactly.
Now, I do know from my one experience, like I said, with book one, there are different types of editors. So, how many times do you have an author come to you and they're expecting you to do the entire ed, the development, the line, everything like that? Or do they usually know that those are different purchases?
Well, with my developmental edit, I do combine the two. So I kind of
Okay.
make that easy on myself, but not all editors do. And I do mention that it's like some editors, they don't want to dig into your text at all until they're certain that your big picture developmental stuff has been addressed. For me, I'd rather do both at the same time, because I think it's the most bang for your buck. And then two, it's easier for me, because if I'm recommending, okay, this needs to be rewritten entirely. I'm not going to really focus on that. But if I want you to expand a different section, then I'm really going to dig in and make sure that that phrasing is polished. So, if you're expanding on it, what's already there is going to be good to go for you. Like, I want to make sure you're as close to publish ready as possible. But the worst thing is when, like, I don't even put that I offer proofreading on my website. I
Right.
don't put that at all, because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm on my fourth book, all I need is proofreading. No, maybe all you need is line editing. That's entirely possible. Some very well-skilled authors, maybe they can get away with just a line edit, but no one can get away with just a proofread. So I don't put that on there.
Right.
And it's so easy just to be overconfident. You've done this a million times, but no, no, the proofreading comes last. Okay, just skip the edit entirely.
I mean, come on. Look at what happened to George Lucas and the prequels of Star Wars. Hubris is a thing.
Yeah, Philippa Gregory, the historical fiction author, people have noticed that she shot to fame with The Constant Princess and the other Boleyn girl, and people loved it because of the research and just it was so wonderful. But then as she got her success, and you could tell there was a huge drop off in quality because she was so successful that they stopped editing her. You could tell, and a lot of people were like, "Oh man, I can't believe this is Philippa Gregory." It's like, yeah, it was always the same author. She's still the same talented author. It's just that her talented editor has been nerfed.
Lackadaisical.
Yeah, and you're not getting the quality that you were before.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like my name may be on the book, but
Mhm.
it is a team effort. And I
Right.
think a lot of new authors, they come in there thinking, oh, this is a solo activity. You do that, you are going to burn and crash so hard.
Yeah.
So, one thing I thought was really funny while I was watching your channel, especially recently, you've been addressing a few Twitter controversies that were quite funny, like the one with Hello Future Me. And one thing I've really noticed is you're very much against gatekeeping,
Yes.
which I really appreciate. I find very refreshing. But like I've noticed this with the one about AI art, and then also with that one about world building that you did recently.
Mhm.
You seem to really just want everyone to have that seat at the table to say what they have to say.
It's not so much everyone should have a say, it's everyone should know what their place to say is. So even with me, oh, I can't go to an author and say, well, as an editor with 15 years of experience, I'm going to tell you what you need to be writing about. I'm going to tell you how to launch your book. And if you disagree with any of that, you're stupid. That's not my place to say.
Right.
It doesn't matter the fact that I have job experience in editing novels. It doesn't matter. That's still not my place to say. I've talked about this. Larry Correa, he excoriated me. I think he misunderstood what I was trying to say. So I was replying to someone else and I had said, indie authors need to be prolifically read in their own genre so they know what's selling now. And I don't know if he thought I was just talking to the casual reader or whatever. He was like, folks, don't do this. Read everything. Do not stick to one genre, which as a point I agree with. But in that particular context, I was speaking especially to indie
Yeah,
authors.
you had a specific point in there. Like I heard it right
Right.
away. You were
And
making
it
a
got
very
lost.
direct compliment. Yeah.
Right, and Larry
Or
is
comment.
Larry, and so but a bunch of the people who follow Larry felt that they had the absolute authority to say really nasty things to me and make fun of my books and call me insult my physical appearance and tell me I didn't know what I was talking about and I deserve to go out of business, and I looked at their accounts, and if they wrote at all, it was usually they've never been published. They've never had skin in the game. They don't know what it means to work for a book on for years and then only to have 0 reviews and 0 purchases and then have the absolute gall to go, what did I do wrong? They didn't know anything. So I'm like, who the hell do you think you are talking to me like that? Like Larry can, all right? Larry can talk as much shit as he wants to me, not you. So it's a matter of staying in your lane. And like with the AI art thing, you have these people, and this is exclusive to Twitter. I don't want to smear artists as a whole, but a lot of times when you say, hey, I want an artist for fan art or something like that on Twitter, you get these people with very minimal talent, terrible customer service skills, who feel empowered to take your money and give you nothing in return, and then turn around, block you, and say bad things about what they think of your politics, and encourage other people to block you as well. And it's just like this is the specific community who feels empowered to tell authors who maybe make $10,000 a year off their books that no, you have to get these high end artists. It's like, no, I'm so sorry, you don't actually get to say that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm open about the fact that my husband is my editor. And some
Mhm.
people have given me and I get it. Because
Right,
again, there are plenty of people that they have their mom edit and it's not edited.
right.
It's not. Um, but at the same time, it's like, I'm sorry, you're judging something on such a superficial level. There's the whole thing. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
It's there for a reason, people.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make the point that the cover is marketing. It's not the content of the book. And like I had a lot of commenters, well, no, because if you're willing to stoop to using an AI cover, that means you also used AI to construct the book. And it's like, no, I'm so sorry. That is not accurate. And even if you did, assuming you did it correctly, which is to use AI as inspiration, maybe a rough draft for a paragraph, and then you properly rewrote it on top of that, I don't have beef with that either.
Yeah.
And most readers don't either. What they hate is if you got like the AI isms, you've got the repeat. It's poorly done. You can't just have oh, write it for me, AI, and then put it out there because it's awful.
Yeah,
You're wasting your reader's time. And
there's an artificial with that intelligence.
exactly. Yeah.
No, I even think I noticed this because you had Jeff Putnam on, which is a big part of the reason I found your channel because I was researching the whole no literature for boys thing. But he's been open about the fact that he also uses AI covers. I wouldn't have guessed that. His covers are gorgeous. He's got 3 books in my house now because of those covers.
Mhm.
And if you can't afford that, I still want to read your book. I want to have that available to me.
Mhm.
If you can afford to pay an artist, fantastic, because they will give you that perspective. Like, that
Right.
is why I pay Nicole McHugh, and my artist helps me do things that I would not have done. And frankly, my cover would not be as good without her.
Yeah, I am not visually oriented at all. So like the idea, I would never use AI just because I don't know what to prompt. I don't know what looks good. So I always use an artist. Now, luckily for what I write, my artist can use stock photo. We're not doing hand painting here because that's where you get into the money thing where most people can't afford it. And so with Jeff, he wanted something really specific for his covers, and the only way to get it would be to hire someone who hand painted it. He's not broke, but he doesn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So and it is.
Yeah. And again, his covers are amazing. Until he did a video talking about it, I had no clue.
Right.
So I think that's the thing is we have to be more respectful of the tools because there was the same thing. I don't remember the century it happened, but like when photographs started coming out, people were panicking, thinking this was going to put artists out of business. There wouldn't be painters anymore and blah, 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 blah. And all it did is it created a new type of artist who they may not be skilled in painting, but they can see composition with a photograph differently. And I
Mhm.
feel like AI has that same thing going where we're just not aware of the tool yet because we're so terrified of the progress.
Exactly.
Like, it's not Skynet, people. Chill out.
Right. Although I do still say please and thank you to the robot just in case.
When you have a new writer come in and they are trying to find an editing service, maybe you're the right one, maybe you're not. How would you recommend that they look for the error? I know you already talked about look for someone who understands your genre.
Mhm.
Are you looking for anything beyond that personality or, obviously budget's always a factor, but we'll put that to the side because that's the obvious one.
Definitely personality. And so for instance, I had someone come to me and it turns out that I wasn't right for him because sometimes when people say they want an editor, they're looking for a more collaborative process, a lot of back and forth, maybe kind of like a quasi coach where it kind of straddles that. That's not how I work. So if you want someone who is going to be a collaborative partner, like, okay, well, I'm going to hand you my finished draft and then you're going to hand it back to me and then I'm going to do some rewrites and I'm going to hand it back to you once again, and this is going to be a multi-month process. I don't work like that for editing clients.
Mhm.
So you need to be open about what you're wanting, because in my contract it says, okay, you get 2 revisions, and that's with your existing your manuscript as it was. So like if you write a whole chapter, that's a separate order. So you need to just be very open. It's like, okay, well, what kind of relationship are you looking for? Because some, extroverted authors do exist and they want to have those calls and they want to have check-ins with every chapter. And how'd you like it? How'd you like it? What do you think? Okay. I'm going to keep working on this while it's just, I don't do that. It's like, shush, I'm working on the book, go away. So
I won't do it to you, but if I could put your face on the screen for that little section where you said, shush, I would totally do because your expression was hilarious.
yes. So I try not to be overtly surly with my introvertness, but kind of.
No, I'm very much one of those extroverted writers. I think that's one of the reasons I had to go with my husband is that is going to be very different than like you said. You're going to be more read it once. It sounds like give the notes, give it back, read it one more time. It's
Mhm.
kind of what I
Yeah, I
prefer.
usually do 2 passes. I do the first pass where I don't touch anything. I'm just reading it for the whole way because it's hard to make comments. Like if you dive right in with the edit, you don't know how it's going to end yet, so you don't know if they're, laying some groundwork or whatever. So I
Right.
always read it first without touching it. Then I go back and then I read it again, this time for the big picture stuff. So I'm not making line edits. I'm just like reading it and making comments in the margins. Here's, okay, what are we doing here? I know that it's going here, but we're meandering. I recommend getting rid of this chapter wholesale. And then I'm also filling out my analysis document, which I'll also deliver. Then finally, on the third and final pass, that's the line edit when I get into the nitty gritty. And then I have my notes to guide me. So it's like, all right, I recommended that you get rid of this whole chapter. So, but I will still line it up and be like, all right, look, if you decide to keep it because you are the author and it is your choice, if you decide to keep it, here are my my mild corrections. I'm not going to go really deep into this chapter that I think you should delete, but I will still give you a cursory line at it just so it's not clumsy or whatever.
No, I like that. So it sounds like you definitely respect like you've kind of said, stay in your lane. You respect your role.
Yeah, I always make recommendations. So it's like, look, I know I recommended that you get rid of that. If you do so, you're in a good place. If you decide not to, here's what I think you should do to mitigate the issues that I raised, And, authors really like that flexibility. And sometimes they won't agree with me at first. And then upon doing rewrites, they're like, fine,
Damn
you were
it.
right.
I must kill the starling. So with your clients, as you're going through, how often are they kind of like pushing back on your commentary, or are they usually pretty receptive to it? Like, I've never been on the editor side of things.
They're usually pretty receptive, usually, and this is partly because almost all of my clients come to me through YouTube. So that I'm not a stranger. I'm not someone they just found online. They're acquainted with me. They know that I'm a person, and they know that, I want what's best for their work. So that helps. Like when people find me on Fiverr, for instance, it can be a little cagier. And when they do push back, it's usually in the form of a question like, well, what if I don't think that that's what I want to do? And it's like, that's okay. So they kind of test the waters. It's like, well, what if I wanted to do this instead? Is that okay? Like the women are usually more attentive about it. I'm like,
I was going to say, they're asking
okay, it's your
permission.
book. So it's just like, here's what I thought. And if you don't agree, especially when I have my romance authors, because there's a lot of romance tropes that are proper tropes for this, genre, but I hate them. I hate the miscommunication trope, and I hate the, you have the wrong idea about the man. You think he's two-timing you, and you run away without saying a word to him, and you do something stupid, and he has to come and rescue you. I hate that crap. And so I always like, okay, well, maybe we could do this instead to make this girl slightly less punchable. And sometimes they disagree because they like that miscommunication trope for some reason.
Colleen Hoover has readers. Let's just admit it.
Yeah, I read exactly one of her books, which was Verity, and I felt so disrespected at the twist of that book that I never picked up another one of her books ever.
I will be honest, out of courtesy to her, that I have not read any of her books for the same reason I haven't read any E.L. James books. I'm just simply not interested.
Right.
But I've read samples online, and much like your videos, the samples made me laugh so hard I had to put it down. I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm done. I don't begrudge anyone who likes those books. In fact, my sister and my mother-in-law, both very intelligent women, very business-oriented women I go to for advice, love E.L. James. I question why, but I don't think it makes them stupid. Right. I don't understand people who are just up in their own fields like, oh, you're an idiot because you like this. It's subjective, you dipshit. Get over yourself.
And a lot of times, especially with women more so, it's like the emotional payoff of a work overrides the fact that you understand it's not very good quality. I mean, we all have that guilty pleasure, and it's just like, whatever, it's fine. It hits me in whatever particular feeling, and I don't care that this prose is schlock. I don't care. I like it anyway.
Yeah, there's a writer out there, Song Erickson. She recently was doing a video with The Authentic Observer, and she said this one line because she was talking about how people are trying to say that, like, Sarah J. Maas is this great literature and blah, 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 because she's had so many people reading. And she's like, guys, sometimes it's okay if it's just fairy porn.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to just like what you like. And
like I love Haunting Adeline, and I don't care who knows it. I don't care. I understand it's smut, it's shameless, it's awful, perhaps bad for civilization. Don't care. Like it.
Yeah. That's the thing is, wish fulfillment to me is not a bad thing until you take it into reality. Like, that's what video games are for. If guys can play video games, I can read my fairy porn. Let's just be okay with this. So, with most of my interviews, I always say, hey, if you had a new writer sitting right in front of you and you could give them one piece of advice that would just maybe help them go on the right path and avoid all the nonsense, what would that be? But you've got a whole channel for that.
Well, I do have one that I don't think I've talked about on the channel. And this is something that I have come to in my most recent work in progress. I have found that perfecting the blurb and getting the cover done first before you write a single word, for me, really clarified it, because a lot of times authors will, and especially if they're pantsers, and I'm not hating on pantsers, but a lot of times, you write yourself in the corners, you're not sure, or what you started off is not how you finished it. Knowing who you're writing to for me is of paramount importance. And the best way to do that is to write the blurb and get the cover first. Because, I'm a plotzer. So I start off with a very firm outline, but then about halfway through, I always just go off in some other direction. That's just the way it is. All right. But the fact that I have that blurb first, I know where to go initially. And that way, when people read that blurb, that's what you're selling. That's the hook. That's the line you're casting out.
Right.
So it helps for me to have that as a guidepost because like this is what people are buying. Make sure you deliver on it.
I like that because a lot of people are probably going to be like, no, if I write the blurb, that's going to lock me in. But being a pantser myself, no, your blurb is there to make questions that your
Mhm.
readers then want an answer to.
And a blurb generally shouldn't, it should take you up until, the inciting incident at best, the midpoint. And that's sharing a lot. From there, that's not a part of the blurb. So it doesn't matter if you go off, into some other path like I do. It's fine. You still have your creativity, but you still have that audience, that promise that you're making to the reader.
Right. And then you know what questions need to be answered, which I'd say any genre that's important, but some it's imperative. Like I write urban fantasy mystery. So
Mhm.
if my detective does not solve the mystery on the back of the book, people are going to be a little pissed.
Yes.
So yeah, I think knowing what questions you're supposed to be answering would definitely hone that in, and I like that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this very realistic, no nonsense take on things. Could you please tell everyone where they can find you, your books, and of course your YouTube channel?
Absolutely. You can find my editing and ghostwriting services on nonsensefreeeditor.com. If you are a movie fan and want to hear my cultural takes on what it means for fiction and how it informs our morality, you can find that on fictionalinfluence.com. And I also have 2 YouTube channels, one for each. I've got the Nonsense Free Editor and Fictional Influence. And then finally, if you like paranormal mystery or time travel, you can find my books wherever books are sold. So if you are a Kobo girly, then you are just as in luck as if you are an Amazon person. So you can find all my books there.
Thank you again to my amazing guest, the nonsense free editor, Kristen McTiernan. If you love her particular brand of sarcasm as much as you love mine, please check out all the links to her books, YouTube channels, and websites down below. And if you want to keep supporting these video essays, interviews, and podcasts, please make sure you're hitting the like, comment, and subscribe button. At the time I'm recording this, we just passed 100 subscribers and we're still growing, so I cannot thank you guys enough. And if you want to support my work more directly, you can check out the first 4 chapters of Blood Herring here on YouTube completely free. This supports not only me, but also my audiobook narrators, Dallin and Kennedy Bradford. Thank you so much, and happy writing.